She was just a servant in the castle. But one night she entered the forbidden chamber and came face to face with the man they called the Shadow King. They said he had no soul, that no woman could survive his touch. But when he leaned close and whispered, "I can hear your heartbeat," her world stopped breathing, because at that moment, she knew his curse was tied to her. If you're ready for a story filled with secrets, forbidden passion, and destiny that can't be controlled, then settle in, subscribe, and enjoy I Can Hear Your Heartbeat. The night rain whispered against the stone walls of Velmora Castle. Every sound echoed through the endless corridors like voices from another world. Most servants were asleep, huddled close to the warmth of their quarters. But Arin was not like the others. She moved quietly through the halls, a wooden bucket in one hand, a small lantern in the other. The dim flame trembled in rhythm with her heart. The castle always felt alive at night. Its air was colder, its walls heavier with secrets. Everyone knew about the East Wing, the one place forbidden to all. The guards never went there. Even the wind refused to whistle through its cracked windows. They said a curse slept behind its doors. Some swore they'd heard screams. Others claimed a shadow moved when no one was near. But Arin had never been afraid of stories. Fear was for those who had a choice, and she never had one. Her mother had died in the lower villages when Arin was only 7. Since then, the castle was her world, its silence her lullaby, its shadows her company. That night, her duty was simple: clean the west gallery before dawn. But when she bent to pick her lantern, she heard it. A voice. Soft, deep, almost like a sigh. "Arin." She froze. The sound didn't belong to any servant, nor to the storm outside. It came from the East Wing, the forbidden halls. Her pulse jumped. "Who's there?" she whispered, her voice trembling against the stone. No answer, only silence. Then again, a whisper, clearer this time. "Arin." She clutched the lantern tighter. No one should know my name there. Curiosity, dangerous but alive, drew her feet toward the east corridor. Her sandals tapped lightly against the wet marble. Each step deepened the chill until she could see her breath fog in the air. The scent of damp stone and cold metal filled her nose. The corridor was lined with ancient portraits, kings and queens long forgotten. Their painted eyes seemed to follow her. One portrait had been slashed across the face, its frame cracked and blackened by something like fire. Then she saw it, a massive door at the end of the hall. Dark wood, carved with strange runes that pulsed faintly, as if breathing. Her lantern dimmed. "Arin," the voice again, deeper now, closer. Her heart pounded so loud she could barely hear the rain. "I'm not supposed to be here," she whispered, but her hand still reached for the door. The iron handle was cold, yet when she touched it, warmth spread through her palm like it recognized her. With a trembling breath, she pushed it open. The hinges groaned like thunder. Inside, the air was thick, almost alive. Shadows curled around the walls, moving as if they had form. Her lantern flickered violently, nearly dying out. Then she saw him. A man, seated on a throne of obsidian and smoke. Chains coiled around his wrists like living serpents, glowing faintly with red sigils. His hair was black as night itself, his skin pale beneath the shifting light. He wasn't moving. At first she thought he was carved from stone, but then he spoke. His voice was low, the kind that vibrated through bone. "I can hear your heartbeat." Arin froze. Her breath caught in her throat. He lifted his head slowly. His eyes opened, golden, glowing faintly through the darkness. For a heartbeat, she forgot to breathe. He looked like a man, and yet not. There was something inhuman in the stillness of his face, in the way the shadows bent toward him. She took a step back, but the door behind her creaked. He watched her carefully, his expression unreadable. "You shouldn't be here," he murmured, voice softer now. "No mortal crosses this threshold." I didn't mean to, Aaron stammered. I heard a voice. I thought someone. Someone? His lips curved faintly, but it wasn't a smile. No one speaks here but me. The shadows shifted and suddenly she felt them brush her arm, soft, cold, and alive. She gasped, dropping her lantern. The flame went out. Darkness swallowed the room. For a second, the only sound was her racing heart. Then, his voice again, closer than before. That sound, he whispered. Your heart. It's too loud. She could feel his presence in front of her now, though she couldn't see him. His breath grazed her ear, sending chills down her spine. Tell me, he murmured. Why does your heart call to me? I don't know what you mean, she whispered, trying to back away. But her back hit cold stone. He was inches away. She could sense it, the air around him thick, charged. The scent of rain and smoke clung to him. Then light flickered again, faint golden sparks that danced from his chains. They revealed his face, beautiful and terrifying. A scar ran down from his temple to his jaw, glowing faintly under his skin. He looked at her like a man seeing sunlight for the first time. You opened the door, he said quietly. Do you know what that means? Erin shook her head, too afraid to speak. It means, he continued, that you've awakened the Shadow King. The words struck like thunder. Her knees weakened. You're real? A flicker of sadness passed through his eyes. Once, he said, before your kind sealed me here. The walls rumbled softly as if answering his pain. He stepped closer, shadows wrapping around him like a cloak. His voice dropped to a whisper. Now tell me, Irene of Velmora, do you fear me? Her lips parted, but no words came. She could feel his gaze sinking into her soul, hearing her pulse like a melody only he could understand. Then, without warning, the great door behind her slammed shut with a violent crash. The sound echoed through the chamber like the end of the world. Aaron turned, heart racing, and grabbed the handle, but it wouldn't move. No matter how hard she pulled, it was sealed shut. The man's voice came again, lower this time, almost tender. There is no way out now. Aaron turned slowly toward him. The golden light in his eyes flickered, soft and sorrowful. You opened the door, he whispered. Now you belong to the shadows. The chains rattled once, and the room fell completely silent. The door behind Aaron glows faintly red, sealing itself with ancient runes. And somewhere in the darkness, the Shadow King whispers, Your heartbeat has awakened me. The silence after the door slammed was suffocating. The walls pulsed faintly with life, shadows curling around Aaron's ankles like smoke that breathed. She stumbled backward, her heart hammering in her chest. What are you? She stammered, pressing her back against the cold marble wall. The man before her, if he could still be called that, tilted his head slightly. Golden eyes glimmered like molten fire, peering at her as though she was the first human he had ever seen. The heavy chains around his wrists rattled faintly, glowing with strange sigils that pulsed like veins of dying embers. I should ask you the same, he murmured, his voice deep, quiet, and strangely intimate. How did you step into this chamber when every living thing that tried before you turned to ash? Erin shook her head in disbelief. I don't know. I was just cleaning. I heard someone call my name. Your name? He leaned forward slightly, and the air between them thickened. Then it seems it was not me who called you. His words were slow, deliberate, each syllable heavy with something ancient. The faint wind whispered through the cracks in the stone, making the candles flicker. Aaron dared to look around the chamber, the black stone walls, the strange throne that looked as though it was carved from solid shadow, and the endless markings etched into the floor beneath him. Everything about this room screamed forbidden. She took a hesitant step backward. I shouldn't be here, indeed. he said softly. And yet you are. There was no threat in his tone, only curiosity. It was unsettling. He looked at her the way a starving man looked at sunlight. The faint light from the corridor outside leaked through the cracks of the heavy door. It caught the faint shimmer in his hair, dark as midnight and laced with strands of faint silver. "What's your name?" Aaron asked before she could stop herself. He was silent for a long moment. Then, with quiet finality, he said, "Kyle." "Kyle," she repeated under her breath. The name felt heavy on her tongue, dangerous, like a secret that shouldn't be spoken aloud. His eyes flickered. "You should not speak my name so freely." "Why?" He gave a faint, humorless smile. "Names have power in this world, little one. And mine has ruined kingdoms." Her breath hitched. "Then what are you doing here, locked away?" "I am not locked," Cale replied. The chains glowed briefly as if reacting to his voice. "I am bound." "There's a difference." Bound. Something about that word stirred something deep inside Aaron, a strange ache of pity, even though she knew she should be afraid. She dared another step closer. "Can you not break free?" He looked at her, almost amused. "If I could, do you think you would still be standing here?" Her lips parted, but no sound came out. His presence was magnetic, terrifying and beautiful all at once. The shadows that licked around his body moved like they obeyed his pulse. Kyle lowered his gaze briefly, almost as if ashamed. "You smell different," he said suddenly, his voice dropping lower. "What?" Aaron whispered. He closed his eyes. Like the river before a storm, like something pure in a place that forgot purity. Her cheeks flushed without reason. That's strange to say." He didn't answer. When he opened his eyes again, there was something raw in them, a spark of longing buried under centuries of restraint. "I can hear your heartbeat," he murmured again, softer this time. "It shouldn't be possible, but I can." Aaron wrapped her arms around herself, trying to ignore how her pulse throbbed in her neck. "I should go." "You can't." "Why not?" He looked at the door. The sigils on it had begun to glow faintly crimson. "The moment you opened that door, it bound itself to you. If you leave now, the curse will follow." Her stomach dropped. "Curse?" "The same one that keeps me here." The room felt colder suddenly. She backed away, shaking her head. No. I didn't do anything wrong. I just opened a door." Kyle's chains rattled as he took a slow step forward. "And now, you've opened me." The words hung in the air between them. He stopped a few feet away, still bound by the chains, but near enough that Aaron could feel the heat coming from his body, sharp against the cold. His scent was strange, a blend of iron, smoke, and rain. He studied her face quietly. "Tell me, Aaron, what is it you fear most?" She blinked, caught off guard. "What kind of question is that?" "The kind that decides whether you survive the night." The air trembled faintly. Her fear began to morph into something else, an uneasy curiosity. She should have been running, screaming, praying. But something about his voice rooted her to the spot. "I fear being forgotten," she said after a long silence. Kyle's golden eyes softened for the first time. "Then we are the same." She frowned. "What do you mean?" He looked away. "I was forgotten too, cursed to be nothing but a story told to frighten children. No soul, no breath, just shadow." He reached out slightly as if to touch her, but the moment his fingertips brushed the air near her skin, the chains flared with violent light, yanking him backward with a metallic cry. He grunted softly, pain flashing across his features. Aaron gasped. "Stop! You're hurting yourself." Cale looked at her, his jaw tight. "Pain is all I have left, but you shouldn't be able to see me bleed. What does that mean?" "It means," he said, his voice trembling faintly, You're waking something that's not meant to wake. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then, a faint hum filled the chamber. Aaron turned toward the far corner, where something shimmered. It was a mirror. She hadn't noticed it before. It stood tall, rimmed in silver, untouched by dust or time. Drawn by an invisible force, she stepped closer, ignoring Cale's low warning. Aaron, don't. But she couldn't stop herself. The reflection in the mirror wasn't hers. Not exactly. Her face was there, but her eyes glowed faintly, just like his. And behind her reflection, faint shadows danced as though alive. Her breath hitched. What's happening to me? Kyle's expression darkened, the flickering candlelight catching the sharp edge of his jaw. The curse, he whispered, his golden eyes burning with something almost desperate. It's already inside you. The mirror trembles, and a whisper echoes from within it, sounding exactly like Aaron's own voice. Set him free. The world came back to Aaron in fragments. Cold marble beneath her cheek, the echo of shouts, the sting of torchlight stabbing through her eyelids. Get her away from there, a guard barked. She's touched the east wing door, she's cursed. Hands grabbed her arms roughly, dragging her upright. Aaron's head spun, the events of the night flashing in broken shards. Cale's voice, the glowing mirror, her reflection whispering, set him free. I didn't do anything, she tried to say, but her throat felt tight, her voice barely a whisper. Quiet, one of the guards snapped. By royal decree, no servant may enter the east wing. That part of the castle is sealed by the old curse. You've broken sacred law. The room tilted as they shoved her forward. Her vision blurred, but through the haze she caught glimpses of the grand hall. The carved pillars, the endless red banners, the distant faces of nobles watching with disgust and curiosity. She was found unconscious, someone whispered. She must have awakened it. The curse that took the queen. That last sentence struck her like lightning. The queen. 2 guards dragged her before the high captain, a stern man in silver armor, whose scar cut across his cheek like a slash of cold truth. He looked down at her with hard eyes. You've brought darkness into these walls again, he said coldly. Do you have any last words before judgment? Aaron's heart thudded painfully. I didn't mean to. Please. I heard a voice calling. Enough. His fist slammed into the marble beside her. Voices of the dead don't call the living, girl. You've trespassed where no one should. You'll be banished by dawn. Gasps rippled through the hall. Banishment. It meant death. No food, no shelter, no mercy beyond the castle walls. Her knees weakened. Please, she whispered. I didn't wake the curse. But even as she said it, the air in the hall began to shift. A low hum, like the deep growl of thunder far beneath the ground, rolled through the chamber. Torches flickered, the walls groaned, and then, his voice. She stays. It came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Deep, commanding, ancient. Every guard froze. The nobles gasped, stepping back in fear. The high captain's hand trembled. It can't be. A shadow bled across the floor, dark and alive, swallowing light as it moved. From the far end of the hall, darkness rose like smoke until it took the shape of a man, tall, regal, and terrible. Cale, unchained. His golden eyes gleamed beneath the hood of living shadow that still clung to his form. He stepped forward slowly, the air around him thick with power that made the chandeliers above sway. The high captain dropped to one knee instantly. My king. Every single person followed, every single one. Except Aaron, who could only stare, trembling, as the creature she'd met in secret now stood before all of them in full terrifying glory.
The night was not meant for mercy. It was the kind of night when even the stars hid behind clouds and the forest whispered warnings that no one dared to hear. Arya ran through the cold dark, her bare feet cutting through wet leaves and frost. The air bit at her skin, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. Behind her, the sound of hounds echoed, deep, snarling, trained to track the scent of an omega, her scent. She had once been the heart of her pack, the soft voice that soothed the wounded, the hands that healed with moonlight's touch. But that was before the whispers, before they called her cursed, before her own people turned their backs. Branches snapped behind her. Her lungs burned. The silver cuffs on her wrists glowed faintly as though mocking her. She was marked, bound, hunted. When she reached the riverbank, the moon broke through the clouds, spilling white light over her face. Her reflection stared back, pale, frightened, yet stubbornly alive. "Goddess, if you still see me, don't let them take me back there." But the forest had already betrayed her. A shadow rose behind her, armor gleaming, eyes like steel. The Alpha King's soldiers moved without sound, their blades. She turned to run again, but one of them threw a chain. It caught her mid-step, yanking her backward with brutal force. She fell hard. The cold metal dug into her skin. Still, she clawed at the ground, fighting to stand. "Don't make it harder than it needs to be," one of the men said. His tone was not unkind, only weary. Arya spat dirt from her mouth, glaring up. "You're hunting an innocent." "Innocent," the soldier muttered. "You're the Omega who burned her pack's Alpha. The king wants answers." Before she could speak again, another figure stepped from the shadows, taller, darker, cloaked in moonlight. "Bend her," he said simply. His voice was calm, but carried the weight of command. The soldiers obeyed instantly. The man's name was Lord Ryan, captain of the Royal Guard. His expression did not change as he watched them shackle her hands, but something flickered in his eyes, doubt perhaps, or pity. As they marched her toward the waiting carriage, Arya lifted her head just enough to see the faint outline of their destination on the horizon, the Moonstone Castle. It gleamed like a blade in the distance, carved from pale crystal, towers reaching into the mist. It was said that the moon itself kissed its walls, and that no one entered without leaving a piece of their soul behind. So the night took hours. Cold winds seeped through the barred windows of the carriage, and Arya pressed her wrists against the chains until they bled. Her wolf stirred weakly inside her, restless and silent. When they finally crossed the drawbridge, the air itself seemed to change. The castle was alive. She could feel it. Every stone hummed with old power. Every torch flickered in rhythm with her heartbeat. At the grand hall's entrance, soldiers pulled her out and forced her to her knees. The echo of their boots against marble rolled like thunder. Above them, the Alpha King sat on his throne, Kyle. He was not what she had expected. He looked too young to carry the burden of a kingdom, maybe 30 at most, though his eyes held centuries. His presence filled the room, quiet and dangerous, like a storm pretending to sleep. "Bring her closer," he ordered. They dragged her across the floor, her chains scraping against the stone. When she raised her head, her gaze met his, and for a moment, the world fell silent. His eyes, sharp and gray like a winter sea, narrowed as he studied her. "You are the Omega Arya of the East Pack." "I was." "You defied your Alpha, broke the bond, and cursed him before the moon?" "I defended myself," she said quietly. "He wanted my power. I took it back." Murmurs rippled through the court. Kyle's jaw flexed, but he gave no sign of emotion. "You call it power. Your people call it poison." She looked away, the pain flickering behind her calm expression. "Let them call it what they wish." For a heartbeat, something in Kyle's composure faltered. The light caught her face, her eyes glowing faintly with the same hue as moonstone, her lips pale but firm. There was defiance there, and beneath it, something else, a quiet strength that unsettled him. He should have felt disgust, pity, something simple. Instead, he felt a pull. It was faint, then sharp, a scent that cut through the air and silenced his thoughts. Not perfume, not magic. It was her. It hit him like a wave, wild rain and ash, sweet but dangerous. His chest tightened. He leaned back slightly, fighting the strange heat rising within him. "Take her to the North Tower," he said abruptly. "No light, no visitors." The guards hesitated, startled by the strain in his voice. "My lord." "Now," he barked, sharper than intended. They obeyed instantly. As Arya passed him, her gaze lifted again, brushing his for the briefest second. It was enough. Kyle's heartbeat stuttered. When the doors closed behind him, the hall seemed too small, the air too thin. He gripped the armrest of his throne, breath uneven. Lord Ryan stepped forward cautiously. "Are you well, my king?" Kyle said nothing. He could still smell her, faintly, hauntingly, as if the scent had woven itself into his skin. He clenched his jaw. "She's cursed," he muttered finally. But as he said it, the torches along the wall flickered blue, their flames bending toward him as if drawn by unseen wind. And then it happened. A sound rolled through the castle, deep and ancient. It came from nowhere and everywhere at once. The servants froze, the guards looked at each other, fear slicing through the silence. It was a howl, not from outside, from within. Kyle's eyes widened as pain lanced through his chest. His vision blurred. The sound grew louder, vibrating through his bones. His wolf, the beast he had locked away years ago, was waking. He staggered to his feet, gripping the throne for balance. For years he had kept it buried, silenced with blood rituals and willpower, but now it clawed its way up like something starved. "Your Majesty," Ryan called, moving toward him. Kyle raised a trembling hand. "Stay back." The air rippled, the torches flared white, casting long shadows across the walls. His pupils flared to silver, and a growl, deep, primal, aching, tore from his throat. The court watched in stunned silence as their king fell to one knee, breath ragged, teeth bared. Then, as suddenly as it began, it was gone. The light dimmed, the sound died. Kyle stayed still, chest heaving, sweat dampening his temples. He lifted his head slowly, meeting Ryan's terrified eyes. It's her," Kyle whispered. "She's awakened it." Ryan hesitated. "The curse?" Kyle shook his head, his voice a low growl. "My wolf." The hall went silent again, the kind of silence that the seeds change. Surround. That night, from the North Tower, Arya sat on the cold floor of her cell. The chains were heavy, but she didn't fight them. Through the narrow window, she could see the moon breaking through clouds, silver and distant. She felt it, the same tremor that had shaken the hall, echoing faintly within her chest. A thread of connection, a pulse not her own. Somewhere in the castle, the Alpha King stood alone in the dark, his hand pressed against the wall as if it could steady him. His eyes burned silver again before he forced them shut. The beast inside him had slept for 5 years. Now it was awake, and it was calling her name. The howl of Kyle's wolf breaks his control for the first time in years, echoing through the moonstone halls, and somewhere in her cell, Arya smiles faintly as if she's been waiting for it all along.
As he turned away, Aaron caught something. Soft words, barely audible, spoken to the advisor who waited in the corner shadows. "She's the one," Kael said quietly. "The prophecy begins again." The advisor bowed his head. "Are you certain, my king?" Kael's eyes glowed faintly. "I felt her heartbeat in the curse. It recognizes her." Aaron froze where she stood. The air around her seemed to thin. The prophecy? Her? Before she could ask, Kael's gaze flicked toward her. "Good night, Aaron." The shadows swallowed him whole, leaving her alone in the flickering chamber, her reflection in the mirror glowing faintly once again. And this time, the voice that whispered from it didn't sound like her. It sounded older, darker. "He's not the only one bound by fate." The mirror's surface ripples, and a shadow hand reaches out toward Aaron, brushing her skin with ice. The nights grew heavier after the prophecy was spoken aloud. Every time Aaron closed her eyes, the castle seemed to breathe with her, its stone lungs rising and falling, its veins of shadow pulsing faintly in rhythm with her own heartbeat. But lately, it wasn't just the castle that responded. It was him. Kael had begun to appear everywhere, in the reflection of a candle flame, at the edge of her dreams, in the hush of a corridor when she thought she was alone. She'd hear the faintest sound, like someone inhaling softly behind her, and when she turned, he'd be gone. The more she tried to ignore it, the stronger it became. Her pulse echoed louder, each beat calling him closer like a song that refused to end. One evening, as rain lashed the castle walls, Aaron sat by the window of her small chamber, staring into the storm. Her reflection glowed faintly in the glass, that same strange shimmer she'd seen in the mirror of the shadow chamber. Her chest tightened. She pressed her palm against her heart as if she could still the thudding inside. Why won't it stop? Somewhere deep within the castle, Kael stirred. He had been in the throne room, alone, surrounded by whispering shadows that bent to his will. But when her heart stuttered once, just once, he felt it like lightning through his veins. He gripped the edge of his seat, golden eyes flashing wide. The power beneath his skin surged restlessly. "Your Majesty," his advisor said carefully, "the council awaits your—" "Leave," Kael said quietly, his voice rough. The air around him rippled with heat. He could hear her heartbeat again, faint but constant, like a drum summoning something ancient inside him. Every time it echoed, his shadows trembled. He stood abruptly, the black tendrils around his boots flaring like flames. "I can't," he muttered, breath hitching. "She's too close." He vanished in a sweep of darkness. Aaron startled awake. Her candle had burned out. Her chamber was filled with the sound of rain and something else, something low and rhythmic. Thump, thump, thump. At first she thought it was her own heart again. But no, this sound came from outside her door. She rose slowly, her bare feet brushing against the cold floor. "Who's there?" she whispered. The door creaked open on its own. The torches in the hallway flickered out, one by one, until only one shadow stood framed in the doorway. Kael. But this time he wasn't cloaked in the usual calm that surrounded him. His chest rose and fell sharply, and his eyes burned brighter than she'd ever seen them. "You called for me," he said quietly. "I didn't." She shook her head, backing away. "Yes, you did." His voice was low, trembling, not with anger, but with something else entirely. I heard your heart. It summoned me. She pressed a hand against her chest. I was only dreaming. He stepped closer, and the room seemed to darken with each step. What did you dream of? A forest, she said softly. Everything was burning. There was a crown of fire and someone standing in the smoke. Cale's jaw tightened. Did he speak to you? I don't know, but I think he was you. His breath hitched faintly. Then the bond is deepening faster than I feared. Bond? Cale looked away, running a hand through his dark hair. The motion was almost human, almost. It's the curse's way of joining what cannot be separated. The heartbeat that freed me is now bound to mine. Her throat dried. So you can hear it? He nodded once. Always. The words sent a chill through her, not a fear, but something sharper, something dangerous. Then what happens when it stops? She asked, her voice barely audible. Cale looked at her, steady, unblinking. Then I stop too. The air between them grew heavy. The rain outside had slowed, and the silence that followed was thick enough to drown in. Aaron looked at him, at the faint shimmer of light on his jaw, the veins of gold that pulsed faintly beneath his skin. There was something terribly beautiful about him, something broken and divine all at once. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. I can't stay away, he said simply. The honesty in his tone made her chest ache. Cale took another step toward her. The shadows followed like smoke clinging to his body. He stopped just inches from her, and she could feel the heat of him. The air itself seemed to hum between them. I don't understand any of this, she breathed. Neither do I, he murmured. All I know is that I haven't felt this alive since the curse. The lightning outside flashed, illuminating his face, half shadow, half light. For a heartbeat, she saw something like longing flicker in his golden eyes. Then the thunder rolled, and he looked away. You should rest, he said quietly. Dreams are not always what they seem. He turned to leave, but Aaron reached out instinctively. Wait! Her fingers brushed his hand. The moment their skin touched, the world erupted. The candles flared violently, shadows exploding outward like a storm unleashed. Every wall in the chamber shuddered as a wave of dark energy swept through. Cale's head snapped up, his control slipping completely. The chains he once wore appeared faintly in the air, ghostly, pulsing, and then shattered again in bursts of light. Aaron gasped as her body lifted slightly off the ground, caught in the swirl of power between them. Let go, Cale warned, voice raw. You don't know what you're touching. I can't, she cried, as darkness spiraled around their joined hands. Then, silence. The shadows stilled. The air fell heavy and cold. Cale stood before her, no longer wreathed in smoke. For the first time, she saw his true face, not the cursed mask of shadow, but the man beneath. He was heartbreakingly human, his skin pale as moonlight, his eyes a molten gold fading to soft amber. Scars lined his neck like whispers of battles lost long ago. Aaron couldn't look away. Neither could he. I warned you, Cale said, whispering, his voice shaking. Now you've seen the man beneath the monster. And, she asked softly. He hesitated, the briefest flicker of pain passing through his gaze. And now the curse will want you too. As he said those words, the mark on Aaron's wrist began to glow, the same golden light that burned in his eyes.